everybody. This is Penda, and I am your scribe coach with Inscribed Inspiration. And I wanted to go live today with one of my favorite people, Miss Edwina Davis. And she is one of my most special authors. And I want to show her book, Lessons in Mercy. So today we're going to talk about Miss Edwina's book, and we're going to talk about her journey as a writer. I want you to get to know her. I want you to read her book, and I want you to also have your friends to get together and read it with each other, especially now while we're all at home and we're reading books. It's a good time to do some book clubs. So I would invite you to share this video, like this video, and go like Miss Edwina's author page. So we don't have any viewers right now, but there will be people who will watch the replay. So hello, all of you who will watch the replay. We do. We actually have 2 viewers now. So if you could put any questions that you may have for Miss Edwina in the comment thread, that would be awesome. I'll be watching that. So Miss Edwina, can you please, my first question for you is, tell us how you got your name.
How did I get my name? My name is, first of all, Sally Edwina Wright Davis. Sally comes from my grandmother, my mother's mother, who was very dear to my mom. And so my mom wanted to name her first and only little girl after her mom. So that's how I got Sally. Edwina is a name from my dad. There are lots of Edwards in my dad's family, like George Edward, Charles Edward, James Edward. And so I think that in his mind was kind of close to Edward. And so we got the Edwina from there. Wright, of course, was my maiden name, is my maiden name. And the Davis comes from the love of my life, my husband, whom I met and married. So there you have it.
I love it. I love stories about names, and I think you have a deeply unique name. So I thought it was awesome, and I wanted you to tell that story. Tell us now you've been a published author for over 3 years. So how does it feel to be a published author?
It feels great. And I say that, but I say that with some caveats. It actually feels great, to know that you have accomplished your purpose. You have walked into your destiny. This is what I was meant to do. I knew that from the time I was just a little girl, that I was meant to write. I always loved telling stories, making up stories, writing stories, and reading them to other people. So to walk into that is excellent. The other thing that I said comes with a few caveats is that it's a lot more work involved in writing a book than one would ever think. So I have a scribe coach to thank for me to understand that and get me through past the writing stage to the point now where we're advertising and promoting, because I was listening to someone the other day who said, you can have the greatest story that needs to be out there, needs to be heard, but if nobody hears it, then, it's not a great book.
That's really true, because within 6 months, I think you sold 300 copies of your book or more. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I think because you have a strong network of people who support you and you talk about your story and people want to support you, number one, but they also know that you had been writing it for a while. So everybody wanted to celebrate with you. How long did it take for you to finish Lessons in Mercy?
About 4 years.
4 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wow. We had lots of ups and downs during the time
Yes.
that we and I think we'll talk about that a little bit as we go further. But I want people to understand what Lessons in Mercy is about. So mercy is defined by the American Heritage Dictionary as compassionate treatment, especially of those under one's power or clemency. Tell us why you wanted to name this book Lessons in Mercy.
Actually, I did not choose that name at all. My scribe coach, who is so wise, said to me, "Stop worrying about the name, Miss Carter. Just write. Go ahead and write. And when the time is right, the name will come to you." And of course, she was exactly right. Because when we got toward the end of the manuscript, I think it had gone for editing once.
Mm-hmm.
We were right at the final phase, and three titles kind of submerged. All of them were quite compelling, and we really couldn't decide on which one. So then Scribe Coach said, I want you to step back, and I'm going to use, this is where your review people and your unpluckable faith community will come in. So she took it to them. They took a vote, and Lessons in Mercy was the winner. I think the other two possible titles were Clemency, which,
Yes.
as you know, means mercy, but it's more of a legal kind of mercy. It's not the mercy that we get from God. Um, and then the other was The Journey of Joseph, which is
Yeah.
the story of this man. And then we did Lessons in Mercy, and that one won.
I'm laughing so hard. You're talking about me like I'm not me as your star coach. That's hilarious. But that is what I think this process has brought out in us is that we've learned how to step back from our roles and really just allow the Holy Spirit to encourage us and speak to us and give us the direction, because the more that we try to do it on our own and the more that we try to make it work, it just would not. And so when we stepped back and just allowed God to breathe in it, everything just came into fruition the way that it was supposed to.
Yeah.
So the book is called Lessons in Mercy. So before we talk about Joseph Daniel Herring, can you tell us a personal lesson in mercy that you have experienced for yourself?
I can. Actually, I had several, but I know the time doesn't allow me to talk about all of them. But I'm
Okay.
going to talk about one briefly,
Okay.
and that's the vision with the journey with the vision, my vision. I have fought blindness all of my life, but I have a great right eye. So that is what God has allowed me to keep. But in answer to this question, I was saying to Coach that I can remember being like 6 years old and in school, and kids would call me Four Eyes. Because, little kids can be mean. They don't mean to, but they can be. And they'd say Four Eyes, and they'd tell me that my glasses looked like Coke bottles. And then I'd be looking at them, and they'd say, "Where are you looking?" And of course, that hurt my feelings. So those were some humiliations that I suffered as a little kid that had to do with my vision. But I was saying to Coach today that it is just a blessing that, here we are, fast forward 70, almost 75 years, and everything that God has meant for me to do in my life, I've been able to do it wonderfully with vision in one eye, not two.
Mm.
So that's a story in mercy. And then the other one I really like to share because it was a big lesson for me. And that was I worked for the federal government as a U.S. postmaster in a small office back in the country in North Carolina. And one morning I went into work. It hadn't even gotten light yet. 6:45, and as I stepped out of my car and started toward the door, I noticed two tall, lanky figures in long black trench coats and black hats and a briefcase
Mm.
coming toward me. Well, you know, I nearly died, scared to death, didn't know what to think. They caught up with me, got to the door before I did, and kind of blocked my entrance. Then they identified themselves as uh, federal postal inspectors.
Mm.
And they said, "We've come to inspect your office." Well, if you've worked with the federal government, you know that when they come to inspect anything, it's usually not good news and it's not for a good reason. So, of course, I was scared to death. Long story short, we went inside. They took over my office, put a closed sign on the door so that all of my customers for that day were diverted to another post office. But
Mm.
they took over my office. They went through everything with a fine tooth comb. I was scared to death. They didn't allow me to ask any questions. They didn't offer any information. They just sat there looking stoic all day long, looking at everything, and had invited me to sit in a corner, which I did. Finally, about 4 o'clock, one of the men got up. Uh, his iron face finally kind of went to a more compassionate one, and he extended his hand and said, "Thank you, Mrs. Davis. I think we're finished."
Mm.
I almost dropped dead. But of course, I still had no idea what they were looking for, why they were there, or what had gone on. So he said, "So come on, let's get out of here." We did. He locked the door, but he kept my keys.
Mm.
To me, that meant, what do I do in the morning? Do I still have a job? What's going on? He said, "See you here in the morning at 6:45, your normal time." Next morning, 6:45, I was standing at the post office, but instead of those two postal inspectors, my boss was there.
Mm.
And he knew me, of course, and he had hired me. And he said, "Good morning, Edwina. How are you? Come on inside." He had my keys, opened the door, went inside, and he handed me back everything that they had taken, all of my account books and everything. And then he handed me my register, my daily register, which is the big book. Probably don't do that anymore now that we have computers. All of your records are on your computer. But at that time, every receipt, everything was recorded in this book. And so he handed me back my book. And I noticed it wasn't the one that I usually have. And I opened that book. And when I opened it, it was like somebody just threw cold water on me. Tears
Wow.
were rolling down my face. It was extra large print.
Wow.
I could see everything in that book that I had never been able to see before. And then my supervisor said to me, "Edwina, why didn't you tell me that you couldn't see the book?" He said, "You would have saved both of us a lot of anxiety and a lot of embarrassment. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help if you need it." I could not see what I was writing in that book. And so anybody who knows anything about accounting, you know, my lines were off, everything was off. Because of course none of my figures tally. I
Yeah.
don't know to this day who reported it or why. And that's okay, because the main lesson that I learned was what my supervisor said to me. Don't be embarrassed to ask for help. That
Mm.
would have saved you so much. So that was God's mercy. I didn't go to jail, obviously, for having fixed my books or cooked my books or anything, which I had not. But I
Yeah.
learned a wonderful lesson out of that.
And I mean, I thank God because I didn't know that part of you that you worked for the federal government in that capacity. I only know you in the capacity of being a journalist and things like that. But what he said was never be afraid to ask for help. For months of us working together, I did not know that you were working through a vision concern. I did not know. No one told me. You didn't tell me. And the only way I found out was probably like 8 months into the process of us working together. You asked me to come over and help with some things on your computer. And that's where I saw like your JAWS, and I saw the, some of your readers. And I'm like, why didn't she tell me? I could have done so much more so differently if I had known. But it gave me a lot of understanding and patience. Everybody has the right and the ability to tell their story, no matter what their perceived barriers may be. And for you, you write all the time, and so writing has never been a barrier for you. There were processes or steps in the process that became barriers, but you overcame it, because I'm holding your book.
Yes.
I'm holding your book. So tell our viewers, who was Joseph Daniel Herring, and did you know him personally? So tell us, what is Lessons in Mercy?
Okay. First part of the question, Joseph Daniel Herring and his wife Dot were members of the church that my husband and I joined in North Carolina. They were there. We got there. They were about 15 years. Is there a problem?
It's okay. You're fine.
Okay, I'm doing it. They were already there when we got there. So when my husband and I joined with our 3 children, they just reached out and embraced us and became mentors to us. Joseph was that kind of person that was big on me. You always saw him, you always noticed him. They're tall, you always noticed him. Dot, on the other hand, was timid and short, but had a powerful story that you will see when you read Lessons in Mercy. He was right behind him. But at any rate, they were just a beautiful family. And even though we weren't physically related to them, they just thought we were. And they took us under their wings. So much so that we went to visit with them to a family reunion one year and met all of their family. Well, it must have been 100 herons in that place in Virginia. Beautiful. And they're beautiful people. They just loved life. You could see that. And Joe was kind of the center of attention, but not in a bad way.
Interrupt you 1 second. You said when they're standing, it's hard to hear you.
Yeah, I'm hearing something's going on because I'm hearing an echo on my side.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you still have your phone on?
No, I turned it off. Here it is. No, it's turned off.
Okay.
It's turned off.
I don't know what the echo is. So just try to speak up a little louder so the people can hear you, because this is good.
Okay. So we went to that reunion with Joe and Dot in Virginia. And as I said, we saw like 100, maybe 150 beautiful, beautiful Black families. They were just gorgeous. Everybody was warm and friendly. And of course, we ate like we always do at reunions and loved every minute. Lots of music, lots of everything. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful event. Now, I didn't know that it was at that reunion that somehow the seed was planted in my spiritual being that I was going to be writing a book about Joe's life.
Wow.
At that particular time, and you'll have to read the book to really understand, tie all of this together, but at that particular time, Lady Fender, I didn't even know Joe's story. It had taken place, but I wasn't aware of it at that time. So it was like another maybe 15 years before Dot and I had the conversation that I should write Joe's story. Now, in the interim, those 15 years, a number of things had happened, of course. My husband and I, had left the state of North Carolina and moved to Georgia. Everybody's children were now adults, and Joe had died.
Hmm.
So all of that took place, before, and then it was when I went back to North Carolina, and ran into Dot inadvertently. Wasn't there to visit her, but just saw her, and we had a wonderful conversation. And she wanted to know what I was doing, and I said, "Well, God is leading me to a special place uh, to write about His mercy and how it has played a part in the lives of so many people." And Dot said to me, "You ought to write about Joe."
Wow. So tell, because we've been on for a while, so I want for you to tell the listeners what was significant about Joseph Herring's life that you want readers to get after they read the book.
I want you to get a couple of things. Number one, nobody is the sum total of the mistakes we've made.
Hmm.
Joe made a number of mistakes, as we all have in his life, and you'll know about those when you read the book. And as people, we tend to look at those. They tend to loom big sometimes, the mistakes, our errors, our shortcomings. But Joe proved in a big way, yeah, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, but that's not who I am. God has made me so much bigger than all of that. Um, that's one point that I want us all to get from Joe's life. And the second is we're here for a purpose. God has created each of us for a very specific purpose. And it doesn't matter what you do, how much you do it, how often you do it, any of those things, until we find that one purpose, that singular purpose for which God has created us, and just dedicate our lives to that purpose. That's when we're going to feel fulfilled.
Wow. Three things that Joseph Daniel Herring's life can teach people about God's love and mercy. You said already that we're created for a specific purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how many things we do in life, we'll never be filled until we embrace our true purpose.
Yes.
And then we are much more than all the things we've done, even
Right.
when God gives us what we don't deserve, which is
Yes.
mercy, which is amazing. I want to end, Miss Edwina, with can you, and I want you to speak up because I want to make sure that they can hear what you're saying. I want you to answer this question for us. Can you give advice to someone listening who does not know their purpose and needs to know how to find it?
Yes, I think I've learned enough about that to share. Number one is to ask. Ask the people around you. If you don't know what your purpose is, then you can feel open to ask people that you trust, your friends, your family, your unpluckable faith team if you have one. But just ask them, um, do you think I should go to work on that group downtown that's working with sex trafficking among our young ladies? Atlanta is the hub for sex
Yeah.
trafficking. And if you feel a tinge, if you feel that that's something that God is calling you to do, you might be afraid. That's natural. You might think, I can't do that. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. And I don't want to put myself or my family in harm's way. Ask somebody else what you know. Your purpose, now your passion is a lot easier to find because your passion is something that you're passionate about. You might love to sing. I love to write. Some people love to garden. Some people love to cook. Those are things that you're passionate about and you would do them even if you didn't ever get paid for them. Your purpose, again, is a little different. You've got to think about it. You've got to pray about it. Ask God why He created you. And then just sit and do some introspective thinking. And when your passion meets your purpose, you will be one fulfilled person full of God's mercy.
That is awesome. When your passion meets your purpose, you will be one fulfilled person full of God's mercy. Did I say that right?
Yes,
Whew, I have to put that in the comments. Can you, Miss Edwina, just talk a little bit about, just briefly, what it was like to have me as your scribe coach for somebody who may be out there that might be interested in writing? They may have identified more barriers than reasons why they should.
absolutely. She was absolutely a great scribe coach. I didn't realize it at first, and that's okay. I mean, I didn't realize what she was doing because she teaches, you know, with a structure to it. So she teaches you how to do this and this and this. So for me, and oh, the other thing, like she said, she did not know about my limited vision. So once she learned about that, then she started to teach me in a different direction. So she learns you, who you are, how you work, and she builds that into her program for you. For me, I really need structure. So that's what she provided for me that was key. Um, you need to do this. I want you to just write this. I want you to record this structure. Um, then something else that I just love about her process was the team, the Unpluckable Faith team. She had me to do that early on in my training with her, and that is to choose those people around you um, who understand your purpose, understand what you're doing, and who will be there for you to support you all the way. And I put in my book, these are the, and she had me write a letter to them and ask them and tell them what would be expected of them. And then I got a response. So we didn't move forward assuming that somebody was going to say, yes, I'll help you with this. We had definite responses. So in my book, someplace, I don't remember where, I remember writing, my Unpluckable Faith team, they're the people who will make it impossible for me to fail.
Yep. That is something that I tell all of the people that I work with. And I love you so much, Miss Edwina. And thank you. I know this was different for you to do this, and we had some sound issues and a few little technology concerns, but you made it, ma'am.
Thank you.
So you're getting ready for the bigger stage. You know, you made it. And so I really appreciate that you took this time with us and we learned a little bit about Lessons in Mercy. It's an awesome book. I want to tell you all that this working with Miss Edwina on this book taught me so much about mercy. And today I see Coach Q is on here. I learned so much about not only mercy externally, giving it to other people, but also we need to give it to ourselves internally. And I have a problem with extending mercy to myself, but working through this process with Miss Edwina and learning about Joseph Daniel Herring's story. You know, he was a man who was orphaned as a baby. His father had given him to his cousin to raise, and he had all these identity issues. And this is a true story of how God redeemed him. So if you are looking for good reading, you can find Lessons in Mercy on Amazon.com. What's your website, Miss Edwina, so they can get a signed copy if they want a signed copy?
Yes, EdwinaDavisBooks.com.
And I'm gonna put that in the chat. EdwinaDavisBooks.com. Is there anything else that you would like to say to the people who are watching or who will watch the replay?
Well, thank you for joining us today, and we just wish you well. I hope you have every bit as much success with Coach Penda as I did, and that you will enjoy the process. And that's key. Enjoy the process of doing whatever it is that you're doing, if it's your purpose. Don't stress yourself, but follow the structure, follow the protocol, but at the same time, enjoy it. It's a wonderful process, and sharing it is wonderful as well.
Sharing it is wonderful as well. Thank you, Miss Edwina, and everyone who is watching. I want to end this with a declaration from Lessons in Mercy, and I want all of us to declare that God is merciful to me. So, as you are reflecting on your day and reflecting on some of the things that you may have done where you didn't deserve mercy, just know that God loves you enough to cover that. And you are amazing. You are loved. And thank you, Miss Edwina, for sharing this story with us. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having